Hey folks, welcome back to Failure Retirement. So, guy's got some stuff on his workbench here. Been working on this fire truck and a couple other things, pretty steady. Making great progress on the fire truck, but some changes have been made. So, let me turn this camera around and show you what's up. Hang on. Okay, so first thing is the guy decided he needed a siren and some cab lights. And got to looking around. I'm just going to give a shout out to Gasoline Alley. They sell a lot of toy parts, and they're probably one of my major suppliers for this kind of thing. So these are like early to mid 50s Tonka fire truck lights that I decided they're the right style, I believe, because they're kind of from the right era. And so I put those on there. But one change you might have picked up on, this is not the red cab. I had the red cab in the background on there before, but when I realized I was going to have to drill a cab for these cab lights, I put it together. Mrs. Failure actually did the right thing and gave me this cab for Christmas. This is a new modern day cab. Yes, Smith Miller went out of business in 54, 55. However, the company was bought out, I believe, in the late 80s and kind of started up again in the probably early 90s, originally making stuff out of original parts. And then he started making his own parts, new parts, this cab being one of them. Don't have any idea when these cabs were made, but the first giveaway on a modern cab is it's drilled for an air horn and clearance lights versus the vintage cab is not. And I thought, if I'm going to drill a cab, I'll drill a cab that already has holes in it, and that way I don't have to drill a vintage cab. So I believe I'm going to end up with the same result. I'm going to be happy with it really either way. But if I don't have to drill a vintage cab, I'm not gonna. All right, so this is pretty well fit. I'm going to have to wait for the clearance lights and the air horn to come in. You probably won't notice it, but it's going to be a while probably making this video. Anyway, I believe this is ready to tear apart for paint. And I had a couple of questions from the last video, so I'll address that along the way. So, forgot to mention this. I had this set out here ready to go. So why is the tire truck out here? Well, the tire truck is the one and only truck so far that I've built a custom front bumper for. It's a pretty custom truck. It's in other videos, or at least one other video. So it has this custom bumper. And the fire truck, this broken frame, also had a completely broken bumper. I trimmed the frame horns a little bit, but I brought the tire truck out here and got the shape of it, and I made myself a kind of a little die here, and I'm hoping this works so it's easy and repeatable just to make these bumpers, because I have at least two other frames right now that need bumpers. This is the aluminum stock that I use for it. It's 1/8 inch thick, 1 inch high. So we will cut it to length, shove it in here, and see if we can make us a die pretty easy, or make a bumper pretty easy. All right, on to the next. Hang on. Okay, so the fire truck is torn apart again because I wanted to show this frame, because Westside, longtime viewer and commenter, wanted to see a better shot of the frame repair and how I accomplished that. I always intended to have this part of the video and didn't really realize it didn't make it in the cut last time. So here it is. This is the frame. You can see the front half. I glass beaded the broken Smith Miller front, squared off the back here where it was broken, right ahead of the cracks. Took some 1/2-inch mild steel angle iron and made the frame. It's not a perfect match, but it's really close. And I may blend that crack in with JB Weld, or I may not, because you totally 100% can't see it. So what I did under here, I made this little plate out of 1/8 inch by however wide it needs to be to fit, and however long, I don't recall. So I made this little plate and welded it in there, and I bent it because see how the frame is Z'd? It steps up right there. So I bent it to match that shape of that frame, and then underneath here I just coated that in JB Weld and then clamped it together. Put some straight edges along the sides here, clamp that all together. This one hole in the middle is where the back of the cab mounts, and these 2 holes right behind it are where the front of the fire body mounts. And then back here in the far back, these back 2 holes are also for the fire body. We just have a rear cross member here out of 1/8 by 1/2 flat bar just to hold that in place. And then I welded these tabs on here to locate the rear axle. I was gonna put another cross member or 2 in there, and then I realized why. Like it doesn't need it. I went with the 4 screws on the body. Normally I don't. Normally I do it how Smith Miller did it, with like 1 screw in the front, 1 in the back. But I decided it would be easier in this case with this body to do the 4 holes, and then I had even less need for more cross members and more welding. Then you can see it's a little shiny right here. The reason is originally I was going to try to kind of fill that corner gap there with JB Weld and kind of blend that in and make it a little stronger. But JB Weld just doesn't flow. It's really stiff, and it was going to be hard for me to shove it down in that crack and smooth it out. So I got this Duco cement that my hardware store guy recommended. It's pretty flowable, and so I've just been putting that in there a little at a time just to kind of add a little more strength and to blend that corner in. And it needs probably like 1 more coat because it keeps running underneath those plates and kind of filling in the gaps that the JB Weld left behind. I've checked, I put it in there, it kind of, after a while, it kind of disappears. It's not running out anywhere, so the only place it can go is in the gaps in between the frame and that plate. So that's all good, and it's almost, there's only a couple spots. You can't really see it on the camera. There's only a couple little spots that it needs to fill in a little more. And then once the paint's over that, I think it'll be totally fine. You'll see a little bit, but not very much, and it's the bottom side. So that's the frame. That's what that looks like. That's how I did that repair. It's a kind of thing I've had in my mind for a while, like how would a guy do this? Because these frames do get broken. And so anyway, once I actually had it in front of me, this is what I came up with. All right, so I'm gonna get some paint on this thing, start putting it back together, and I'll be back with you. Okay, so back to the bumper for a minute. Just one last thing. Here's a little jig that I ended up making. It's just out of a block of wood with the slot cut in it. I wrote the length the aluminum needs to be for the LMAC right on there. maybe if I don't really use the same bumper on the GMC, but I might. So that'll be a different length, I'm sure. Start out with the flat aluminum. I clamped this whole thing in a vise. You slip that in that slot, bottom it out, pull it over, and you end up with this. So you pull it over until it lines up with the line over there, and you know you have it far enough. So simple, most importantly, repeatable. And then just flip it around to the other end, do the other end the same way, get it right over to the line. Anyway, so that's how I made the bumper for the fire truck. That's how I will be making more bumpers for LMAX in the future. All right, so I think that's going to do it for this episode. So we'll see you next time on Failure at Retirement. Have a good day.